So, hey everybody, it's Lee Flood and Brock Glidewell with Pearson-Kelly Technology, and we just wanted to talk a little bit about how technology helps increase employee engagement. And so, Brock, I want to start this whole thing by taking it back before I was born, before you were born, to a time whenever the way an employee would really communicate, and that's really what we kind of stuck with on this was in an in-person meeting or by writing a letter. And I don't know, have you wrote any letters lately or?
It's been a while.
Yeah, same for me. And then, this wonderful thing happened. And so here's one of my favorite things. Like, and when I watch old movies, I'll see like they had like memos. Because like internally, I could pass memos out, and it was like a faster way to communicate, it wasn't a letter, but it was a way to communicate. And I can remember early on in like elementary, they actually taught us how to write a memo. As funny as that is, never wrote one. Did you ever write a memo?
Never did.
Oh man, we're missing out. And then all of a sudden, this really awesome technology came around, and so you could do faxing. And now you could communicate not only with internally your staff, but you could communicate externally, and it would go super super fast. And receive it on the other side of it, so you could actually get information out all over the place. I mean, all over the, I don't know how far it could go originally, but over a course of time, nationwide, worldwide, to be able to communicate that way. It was really, really cool. And then around the time that I was in probably elementary, I remember AOL coming out. I don't know if you were an AOL guy back in the day.
Oh yeah,
And
I had an AIM username for instant messaging. It was awesome.
I still use the same email as before
Mhm.
from whenever my sister set it up. So for my AOL account. So I just use it now that it's Gmail or Yahoo or whatever I
Yeah.
set. It's the same structure. But it came out and gave us this ability like instant, and with that, obviously chatting as well. And so now we live in this world where you and I are on a video right now, and everything's instantaneous. And so, like, as we walk through that historical standpoint, now we get to the current climate. And I know you been in tech for a while now, like had some thoughts about what that's done, how that is now, and maybe how it's improved our engagement.
Right. I'll tell you the first thing I thought of as you're going through that. The downside is you can't read my handwriting anymore. And so it's probably a good thing if you don't use
Yeah.
it, you lose it. You and I both suffer from the same handwriting disease,
Oh,
but for
yeah.
some reason we can read each other's handwriting, so that's good. Uh, but
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. If you think about, just kind of that progression you lined out, and then we think about the last 3, 4 months that we've been experiencing, just a complete shakeup in the way every industry and every business works. Think about the challenges that a business would have had 25 years ago if we would have had a pandemic hit that shut down the
oh,
economy. It's just mind-boggling to think about how do you get things shipped, how do you get products shipped, how do you talk to each other, how do we get information to our clients. It's almost overwhelming. It stresses me out to think about because we have these tools where I could be at home and have access to all the same stuff that I have at the office. I don't need to be at the office. In fact, you and I, ironically enough, are about 8 feet apart on a video chat, but we're physically like right across the hall. I can hear you talking. So it's really interesting to think about how all of that has progressed to really minimize the impact that this very earth-shattering and negative thing that has happened over the last 4 months has had. We're Teams chatting, we're video chatting, we're able to keep up with everything. A lot of our databases are in the cloud where we can easily access the data we need. So it's just really unbelievable to think about how those things that a lot of them maybe came out of social aspects, like just talking, just wanting to talk to people, but they became these business tools that changed the way we work. Now the tough thing about that is especially when the office starts to move home, the tools are in your pocket, all those things is how do you make sure that it has increased engagement. We're talking about tech increasing engagement for your employees, but how do you make sure that we don't burn that out? I know you guys have a video that everybody needs to check out about watching for burnout in your employees, but it's a real thing that happens. I can tell you as a technology director at a large school district, it was great that everybody could get a hold of me when they needed me. For them, they had it. But for me, it I could be sitting at dinner and I just see the ding pop up and I look at it, and whether or not I do anything with it, it's now in my head. It's in between me and my kids and my wife and my meal. So I know you were going to kind of talk about that, really balancing that engagement piece in employment with making sure that you know how to turn it off.
Yeah, there's two things I think that are really interesting about that. The first is which, um, something we didn't talk about really is that engagement. Like now, like with my phone, like not only do I get to engage with people through like the work means of tech, but like social media. Like I know your kids. Like, I mean, I've only met them once, but like I get to see them all the time. I get to see you take them to do fun things, stuff that. So that part of it is positive, and so I don't want to just completely miss that
Sure.
because that's kind of a cool thing. And through work, LinkedIn, Facebook, those things, but we're able to use those things to communicate back and forth and to kind of build relationships more than just engagement, but like relationships that's so important. The second thing I think about that's funny is I started in the industry in 2000, oh man, 12. And so that doesn't seem right. I'm like, wow, it's 8 years ago. But I didn't know any different than like I had my cell phone. I literally put my cell phone on my email and was like, hit me up. Doesn't make any difference. And I was a salesperson. And so, conveniently enough, they did, like, especially if they had a problem, right? So it'd be 8, 9 o'clock. And I actually had one of my all-time favorite customers. Um, he would email me at like 2 a.m. all the time or call or text at 2 a.m. because he liked to work then. That was whenever he wanted to work. And so it was always really funny. And my wife really appreciated all those text messages and the
Oh,
ding. But I'd sit next to all these people who had grown up in a different industry and it exhausted them.
mm-hmm.
Like, because they were used to, they worked long hours. They were used to that show up at 7 and they'd leave at 6, but they legit, when they went home, they were done. Like it was over. Like that was the end of it. Someone had to have your home phone number and people, didn't do that a lot unless you were a business owner or something maybe. Uh, and so what I found that was really important for me was structuring just a way to shut down. So, you have to kind of find that way to say, hey, here's the times when I am going to turn that thing off
Mm-hmm.
and really, just kind of disengage from everybody else, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's super important because I think when you get so wrapped up into it, you're in it's just hard to see what you're doing. It's hard to keep that big picture in mind. 100% agree. I mean, tech has changed the way that we communicate. It's changed the way we work. A lot of that is good. We have to balance that. I really liked what you brought up because a lot of those things you would have to have, company outings for us to meet kids
Yep.
and all this. And
Yep.
now you feel like you know them. And you see them and you just pick right up and say, hey, man, what's going on? I saw your basketball game. I know my kid played basketball against each other the other day, and I Facebook Lived it. All our parents were watching it, and,
Yep.
it's a really awesome thing. So we don't want to disregard that. But technology can definitely enhance your employees' productivity and engagement at work, provide them the right tools, provide them the resources. But also, I think it's important to really stress to them that establish your standards of when you communicate.
Mm.
I always, if I send a late email or a late text, I try to say, hey, I'm thinking of it right now. That doesn't mean you need to think of it right now. I just want to get this out so I don't forget about it.
Yep.
That's really important. So, Lee, it was great talking to you about this. Guys, we have a lot of cool content coming out. Make sure you're checking everything out, and we'll be talking to you all soon.